Hey my friends, how's it going? It's Ultimus, and in today's video I wanted to talk to you about the talent trees, PvP talents, as well as the overwhelming amount of passive abilities compared to the lacking amount of active abilities. Now, I found that in this realm of kind of what's going on here, with facing us the ability prune, it's the PvPers who are mostly upset about the lack of abilities, and the PvEers seem to be more okay with the pruning or seem to be less bothered by it. Now, I know that doesn't speak for everybody, but the majority of what I've seen. So, that being said, if you really don't think it's a big deal, then obviously no harm, no foul, and this video probably isn't for you, though you might want to stick around just to hear what I'm proposing. I do have an ability or an idea, I should say, to propose for the solution. So we'll see how long we're going to ramble on for this about. But in the background, you have some Holy Paladin PvP footage going on. Felt like just queuing BGs a little bit ago, and I had some footage of this stored up. So I figured that'd be kind of a fun time to throw it out there for you guys to enjoy. It's a little bit different than the typical warrior PvP, I thought. But a couple years back, I believe it was with the introduction of Mists of Pandaria, we had the new talent trees. These caused a little bit of a stir. It bothered a lot of people. When they first came out, I was optimistic and willing to try it out because I have a hard time just bashing on anything, saying it's a horrible idea until I've had a good amount of time to try it out. Some things do concern me, and much like that talent tree did, because I really liked the old school talent trees. I liked all the builds and different stuff you could do. And one of the reasons Blizzard moved away from those old talent trees was they felt that it was very outdated and pointless, and just taking all of the arbitrary passive talents that you had to take no matter what. They found that those talents made not for very exciting fun choices, which I can agree with. It's not the most fun taking a ton of passive talents, or unless you have options is the point. Unless it changes your gameplay enough to where it's exciting. Like, you're like, oh, I can take more crit and do a whole crit build, or I can take more haste and do a faster speed, and actually having those choices matter. So often in WoW, you face with cookie cutter builds and best in slot builds because some stuff just pulls ahead. Okay, that's just the way it's always been, and as far as I'm concerned, that's probably the way it's always going to be. Doesn't necessarily mean I like it, but that's just the way video games are, especially with MMOs. So with that, it was kind of exciting because, okay, it was like we're moving to these new talent trees. There's supposed to be less passives, except there's still a lot of passives. There have been for a while, and there still continue to be in Legion. And I think that's my biggest problem. That's one of my biggest critiques right now that I have going into Legion, looking at the alpha. And again, this is all from an on-paper standpoint. This is all from, I'm only watching people's streams and videos because I still don't have access to this yet. So I can't say from a hands-on perspective, but at least looking at the different classes, the different talent trees, every single class I've seen so far has an overwhelmingly large amount of passive abilities compared to the amount of active abilities. Now, in my opinion, I just don't find that to be a whole lot of exciting gameplay attached to that. It's just not something that interests me. If we're trying to move away from these arbitrary, forced passive talents, more or less, like, why do we have so many of them? Why are there still so many attached to our talent trees? And why are there so many in the PvP talent trees? If we're trying to get back to a point where we're focusing on class fantasy and immersion, why don't we have more active talents that actually actively change the way we play our specs, right? What if, for example, and I'm picking on Fury a little bit because Fury's in a very good spot so far from what I've seen. Everybody I've talked to, everybody I've seen playing Fury on the Legion Alpha is nothing but good things to say about it. But I'm going to use it as an example. As Fury, let's say you want to go for a very fast attacking build, while Joe over here wants to go for a high crit build. I don't really understand why we can't have those two options, or why there shouldn't be certain active abilities that allow us to do that, if that makes sense. That's the kind of stuff I just don't get. I don't understand why we don't have more options within the internal build of classes. And I guess it doesn't always have to necessarily change the entire way we play our class and spec, but maybe a couple differences. I just... if the PvEers and the majority of people there are okay with the ability prune, fine. But for PvP, why can't we have more active abilities in our PvP tree? If you look at most PvP trees, there's a couple actives in there, but there's also a lot of passives. And I find that if there was any place for the active PvP ability or active abilities, it would be in the PvP tree. I would like to see that implemented and tested out a little bit more. And I know there's still hope for this, and I know there's still a chance of this because we're still in alpha. So on the 1 in a million chance that someone from Blizzard happens to stumble on this video, which I doubt will ever happen, but we can hope. Can we consider that? Can that be something that we move towards? Because if we, and I think that's the only way we're going to find the current state of talent trees to be exciting and fun. I don't find taking passive abilities in the current state of the talent tree to be very fun. If we're going to have as few slots and choices as we do, make it fun. If we don't have talent points to spend every level, every couple of levels that we're dinging a level, make the one talent we get every 15 or so levels exciting to click and use. Some classes suffer more than others from this, I've noticed. And this is even just in Draenor, as I'm getting very, very close to getting my Hunter to level 100, which is my last character to get to level 100. I'm finding that some classes suffer more from this than others, which, again, I guess there's only so much you can do about it. I don't know. But at the same time, it's like I just don't see how passive talents and a 75% or so ratio of passive talents is exciting. I feel like the staff and the game devs and the class designers at Blizzard have been doing this long enough to understand what makes game design fun and what makes playing a class exciting. Maybe. I like to hope. I like to think. I don't know. I just know it just looks and feels very lackluster compared to what it could be. One talent that I will say that I liked, and this is an example, I think, of a good passive talent, in my honest to God opinion. In the Elemental Shaman tree, there is a talent that lets you increase the damage of the Lava Burst, but remove the effect of it proccing to get the instant casts. Which I think has been one of the big problems with Elemental Shamans for a while, is that they just get instant cast Lava Burst, hoping to God for a multi-strike, and then just destroy someone. I just don't find that to be very fun. Elemental Shaman used to be one of the coolest specs to me in the game, and I leveled up my Shaman to play Elemental, and then I discovered Enhancement and found it to be a whole lot more fun. But I think part of that was because of the Lava Burst. I remember back in Wrath of the Lich King, you had a Lava Burst, which had an insanely long cast time on it, and so you weren't just standing there trying to fire off Lava Blasts, or Lava Burst, I should say, because you're going to get interrupted. But when you were good enough and in a place where you could get off that Lava Burst, you were lucky and you were rewarded for that, because you watched a good 30 to 50% of someone's health bar just disappear like that. It's the same thing with Chaos Bolts right now with Destruction Warlocks, right? Like, that's why people like casting Chaos Bolt, because it hits like a semi, 2 semis sometimes, right? On the flip side, it's super rewarding when, as a warrior, instead of reflecting or interrupting that, you can be like, gotcha, fool, and you can reflect it. Stuff like that is exciting. That's what makes PvP exciting, when you can outplay the other player. And just with the amount of passives that we're seeing, and poorly designed passives, I should say, it's just not exciting. So seeing a passive talent in this regard that is well designed, that lets you actually dynamically change the class design or the way you play your spec, is a good thing to me. Some people like the instant cast Lava Bursts. Cool, they can have fun with that. Some people like the hard cast Lava Bursts that reward them with more damage. They should be rewarded for that. And I think the idea that there's actually 2 different playstyles for that is a good thing. I would like to see more classes with that. I think that would be a good thing, and I just don't understand why we don't see more of that. So, to me, I would like to see, to meet halfway, more active abilities in the PvP trees. I would like to see more talent choices that reflect changing the game dynamics and playstyles for each spec and class. I don't think I'm asking too much. I really don't. Especially, again, with the talent trees being as small as they are, it should be fun to select a talent. It should be rewarding, especially with glyphs being gone now too. Like we're seeing a huge removal of glyphs that affect gameplay. And so we're moving more towards cosmetic stuff with glyphs, which is fine. Cosmetic stuff is fun. That's why people do transmog runs, for crying out loud. But there should be a makeup for that. There should be something that says, okay, let's take all of these game-changing mechanics and things that we added to spells and such with glyphs and just add it to talents now. If they're going to do all of the crunching and all of the pruning and the combining of certain talents and abilities into one thing, we should be able to still see, I think, some more active abilities. I think some other things that I would like to see a little bit of too, and I know this takes time, and I think we're going to see more of this as we get into beta and closer to launch, so I'm less worried about this, but better design talent trees. I think some of the talent trees right now are in a state of a little bit of chaos, specifically warrior talent trees. Fury and Arms both are in a place where some of the choices are strange and shouldn't be there. Some of the talent shouldn't be there at all, I don't think. And I think that needs to be relooked at. But again, I'm less worried about that because of where we're at and it's still being alpha. And we're probably not going to see launch of Legion until, July, early August, personally. So I'm more focused on just the talent tree, the PvP talent trees. Artifact weapons, I think, fall in line a little bit with this as well. Since there's so many passes in there, the actives in there need to be exciting, they need to be fun, and they need to be relevant for PvE and PvP. Bottom line, if that class artifact weapon active ability is not relevant in both, it has no business being there, and it needs to be reworked. As a warrior, I need to have a reason to use my active artifact abilities. As a shaman, I need to have a reason to use my active artifact abilities. I shouldn't be able to just say, don't ever use it, not going to put it on my bar. To me, that's just poor game design. That's just lazy game design. And so, with all of this, I think that's, at least in my mind, the compromise between if Blizzard is really intent on all this ability pruning and putting some abilities back in but blocking them behind a wall of PvP levels and honor levels and talents, fine. Give us some dang exciting choices to make. Like, let me choose between some really cool CC depending on what I'm going to do, or let me choose between a couple really exciting damage cooldowns, or whatever it is, or things that will change the way my warrior is played. If I can't, have my cake and eat it too, I don't know. It's concerning and it's slightly frustrating, just because it's always, I think change is scary for a lot of people, and that's where we get in trouble, where we see all the changes coming and it's like, right, we start to like freak out and stuff like that. And so while I'm concerned, I am hopeful at the same time, because I refuse to be one of those, I just absolutely refuse to be one of those players and one of those people who is just freaking out. Every change is a bad change. Like, every change is just a step in the wrong direction. I just can't be that naive. I'm too much of a believer in seeing the bigger picture and seeing both sides of the coin. I feel like my opinion is only valid when I've been able to see both sides of the coin, if that makes sense. And so this is just me voicing my opinion and then proposing a possible change. So hopefully that's something that we can see implemented or designed a little bit better. Overall, again, some classes are in a better place than others. Demon Hunters are going to be interesting because, again, they're a brand new class and completely new specs as it is. So I think they're just going to be an interesting spot no matter what as it is. But every other class, I feel like, needs to be, especially with so many classes and specs changing, like, everything is just changing for them. Rogues, Shadow Priest, everything. So many new resource systems being added, all of this stuff. Now is the time to get these talents right. Now is the time to get this stuff right. If they don't want to have all these boring, arbitrary passives, like I said before, then let's get some fun, active abilities in there. Let's get back to maybe seeing some cool, massive, huge, powerful spells that are on 5+ minute cooldowns. I'm honestly okay with that. I really am. I don't understand. I mean, I'm not talking about let's take Recklessness back to a 30-minute cooldown or whatever it was, like it was in vanilla. Forget that noise. But, I'm okay with classes having longer cooldowns on really big, cool abilities, because usually it's rewarding to use that ability if you can effectively use it. With the return of PvP talent trees for shamans, for example, being able to reduce the cooldown of heroism or bloodlust, but only be able to cast it on you and one other party member. That's cool because we're seeing a return of that ability in arenas, and I think it's going to make some arena cleaves very, very scary. But I like that. I like seeing now that usefulness come back to shamans as far as PvP goes and things like that. And I feel like I'm talking about shamans a lot this video. I'm in a place where I'm watching shamans very, very carefully because I want to play a shaman next expansion. But I'm hesitant, and I also like playing with resto shamans, but they look so god-awful right now, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I know, Thor. I know. It's just abysmal, and you really want my burger that's sitting there. She keeps trying to go for my fries. Poor thing's been locked up all day while I've been at work. I feel so bad for her. Oh, yes. But anyways, all that to say, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about all this. I'm sorry for rambling. It's just something that I feel very passionately about, and I want to see this go in a good direction. And this is just my 2 cents on a proposed change and possible direction that this could go. Let me know if you agree, disagree, or what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'll catch you next time.